You're not exactly irreplaceable. You think you own everything? That was the moment the fuse hit flame. The voice didn't belong to my wife, Natalie. It belonged to her brother, Kyle, standing in my garage, drenched in grease, fiddling with my $12,000 snap-on compressor like it was his birthright. And the worst part? Natalie stood right beside him, arms crossed, chin tilted, a smug little smirk like she was watching something entertaining on Netflix. You're not exactly irreplaceable, she added, voice sharp like broken glass. Don't be dramatic, Jason. It's just stuff. Just stuff. Stuff I worked overtime for. Stuff I built my name with. Stuff I bled under. And now it was theirs. That night, I didn't sleep. I waited until 2:17 a.m. I knew they'd both be passed out. Her from 2 glasses of Cabernet, and him from whatever leftover beer he pillaged from my fridge. I grabbed my keys, drove in silence, and unlocked the storage unit that held the backup gear they didn't even know existed. Compressors, torque wrenches, diagnostic tablets, toolboxes. I packed it all into the truck. Every bolt and bit. But what I left behind, that's what would wreck them. I walked back inside the garage and pulled open the panel behind the wall rack. Took out the small USB stick with the security cam footage, Kyle dragging in a stranger after midnight last Friday. Natalie sneaking out 2 hours later in that little red jacket she only wore when she wanted attention. I'd seen just enough to make my chest tighten, but not enough to ruin me yet. I needed more, and I get it. The next morning, they both woke up to an empty garage and a silent house. Kyle screamed first. Where the F***K are the tools? Natalie didn't scream. She stared at me. Stared like she already knew this was the beginning of something she couldn't control. Where's my stuff? She asked cold. Not even bothering to lie. I looked her dead in the eye. Don't worry. I only took the things I own. But you're right. I'm not irreplaceable. None of us are. Her eyes flickered. A tiny crack. But she wouldn't let me see her break. Not yet. Kyle's staying here, Jason. Get used to it. That was the shot. Right in the gut. No apology. No compromise. Just a challenge. I didn't answer. I walked out, got in the truck, and drove to the one place I knew I could think clearly, my dad's old cabin upstate. Windows busted. Roof half-caved. But the silence? It was perfect. I sat there for hours, piecing it all together. How her phone started buzzing after midnight again, and how she never smiled around me the way she did around her girls' night texts. How Kyle suddenly had gas money and a new phone. How my name started disappearing from shared accounts, replaced by weird usernames I'd never seen. They weren't just using my stuff. They were building something behind my back. And this time, I wouldn't just walk away. I'd flip the whole script. Let them feel what betrayal tastes like when it's cold, calculated, and leaves no blood, but scars that don't fade. And I knew exactly where to start. With the password I'd memorized from Natalie's laptop. The one she never changed. The one she used for her cloud backups. Because the red jacket wasn't the only thing she wore when she lied. I sat in that dusty armchair at the cabin, lit by a single hanging bulb, and opened my laptop. The cabin barely had signal, but just enough for me to get into her cloud. The moment I typed in her old password, Darlin29, I felt that sick rush. The kind you get before you crash. Before impact. Dozens of folders opened. Videos. Screenshots. Voice memos. I clicked at random. There she was. Natalie. In that same red jacket. Laughing in the passenger seat of some black Mustang. The guy's voice was deep, smug. He leaned in and said, "You sure he won't find out?" She smiled. That fake, flirty smile she used to give me when we were first dating. Jason's too busy playing mechanic. He thinks loyalty means I owe him something. The next video? Her dancing at someone's place. Kyle was there too, holding a drink, high-fiving the same guy. Background music was blaring. And then came her voice again. Clear, proud, venomous. I've been living rent-free. That idiot still thinks I love him. I paused the video and sat still. My pulse was slow but heavy, like a war drum in my ears. I wasn't angry. Not yet. What I felt was deeper than rage. A kind of numb clarity. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was building her life off me. Stealing from me with a smile and dragging her dirtbag brother into it like some family cartel. I copied everything. Videos, messages, screenshots. I saved them to a hard drive, then to 2 encrypted USB sticks. One would stay with me. The other, I already knew where I'd hide it. I went back home the next morning. The garage was still gutted. Kyle's car was gone, but Natalie was at the kitchen table, on her phone, sipping coffee like nothing ever happened. "You took everything," she said without looking at me. I nodded. "That's right. Everything I paid for." She laughed. "What do you want, Jason? You want me to cry? Say sorry. What's the game here?" I pulled out a small manila envelope and tossed it on the table. She flinched just slightly at the sound. "What's this?" "Highlights," I said. "Clips of you and your little Mustang friend. Your brother high on whatever pills he's been selling from my shed. And you, burning our marriage like it was paper." Her jaw clenched. "So what? You want a divorce?" "No," I said. "You want me gone, remember? You said I'm not irreplaceable." She stood up. "You're acting crazy. You're making a big deal out of nothing." I cut her off. "You don't get to gaslight me now. I was willing to give everything to you. And you spit on it. That's fine. Just remember, if you think I'm walking out quietly, you've got no idea who you married." She tried to speak, but I walked past her, upstairs, grabbed my backpack and phone, and left. I didn't slam the door. I didn't curse. I wanted her to feel the silence. That night, I booked a hotel. Cheap, quiet, on the edge of town. I lay there staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Her laughter, the betrayal, that Mustang guy's voice. But what I focused on most was the plan. Because this wouldn't end with me licking my wounds. No, this would end with her reputation shredded, Kyle arrested, and every inch of comfort they thought they built on my back ripped away. The next few days, I moved like a ghost with a checklist. I didn't text her, didn't answer her calls. I wanted her to stew. Confusion was my ally now. Let her wonder if I was bluffing or broken. Meanwhile, I got busy. I filed to put a hold on our joint accounts, quietly, froze the credit cards, locked the online banking, rerouted my direct deposit. All legal, all mine. Natalie never read the fine print. The business name was in my name. The lease, my name. The utilities, insurance, car registration, all mine. She lived like a queen in a house of cards and thought I was the joker. I reached out to a buddy from high school, Ben, who worked in digital forensics. I didn't tell him everything, just enough. He ran a few checks and found more than I hoped for. Turns out, Kyle had been selling car parts online. Parts that just happened to match my inventory. VIN stripped, listed under burner accounts, delivered to sketchy addresses. Kyle wasn't just freeloading. He was running a side hustle with my name on the receipts. I took the files to the sheriff's office the next morning. I kept it simple: suspected stolen goods, fraudulent sales, unauthorized use of business property. They opened a case immediately. Apparently, Kyle had already raised a few red flags in the system. I didn't stop there. I sent a blind copy of the files to the Mustang guy's employer, some mid-level real estate firm. He looked sharp in his LinkedIn photo. I wondered how sharp he'd look when his boss opened an anonymous tip with attachments of him screwing a married woman in a property marked under contract. Natalie had no clue what was coming. But the best part? I still hadn't confronted her fully. I wanted her to feel it first. The slow unraveling. The quiet chaos. By Friday, the calls turned into voicemails. "Jason, where the hell is the money? I can't pay rent like this. You better not have touched my car payment. I swear to God." And finally, "I know you're doing this on purpose. You're not innocent either. I deserve better than this emotional terrorism." That one made me laugh out loud. Emotional terrorism? No, sweetheart. This was strategy. Saturday night, I showed up at the house. I didn't warn her. Just walked in, same key I always used. Kyle was on the couch, shirtless, high, some trash reality show blaring on the TV. He saw me and blinked like he couldn't tell if I was real. "Where's Natalie?" I asked. "Out," he mumbled. I nodded and walked to the garage. Opened the breaker box. Killed power to everything but the hallway light. Then I left the flash drive on the kitchen table, labeled in Sharpie. Insurance. Inside, a copy of every file. Videos, texts, emails. All of it. Plus one final letter. "Natalie, you said I'm not irreplaceable, but you forgot that everything around you is. The money, the comfort, the fake safety net. You tried to build a kingdom on my spine. You don't get to keep it. You're free now. Really free. Good luck with it. Jay." I walked out. Quiet again. The light from the hallway flickered as I closed the door. She wouldn't call this time. Because she'd finally understand. I wasn't trying to win her back. I was erasing her completely. Sunday morning, I watched from my truck across the street. I didn't go there to spy. I went to witness the fallout. Kyle stumbled out around 10, hair a mess, yelling into his phone. He looked panicked. Good. That meant he read the drive. Or worse, for him, he hadn't yet, and the world was already shifting beneath him. Natalie came out an hour later. She was dressed too nice for a Sunday. Makeup done, heels on. Probably thought she was going to smooth talk her way into something, somewhere. Maybe with the Mustang guy. Maybe with a lawyer. Maybe with anyone who'd still listen to her bull. She didn't notice me, but I noticed the repo truck pulling up just as she was opening her car door. The driver confirmed the VIN, nodded at her, and said, "Sorry, ma'am. You're 3 weeks behind. It's the bank now." She screamed. Loud. Like it was some injustice. Like the world was robbing her. I rolled the window down just enough to hear. Jason did this. He's ruining my life." "No, Natalie. I was just removing myself from it." I drove off. By Tuesday, the sheriff's office called. Kyle had been taken in for questioning. They found a stash of stolen parts at one of the delivery drop points I'd flagged. Enough to stick a possession charge, maybe more. And Natalie? She finally called me. Blocked number. I picked up. Her voice was shaking, but not with sadness. With rage. "You think you're clever?" she spat. "You think this makes you the bigger person? You ruined everything." "No," I said calmly. "You did that. I just took back what was mine." She went quiet. Then the venom came back. "You think you're better than me? You're still the same boring, pathetic guy I married." That's why I cut her off. "Don't finish that sentence. You already said enough when you looked me in the eye and backed your brother over your husband." She didn't hang up right away. She breathed hard into the phone like she wanted to say more, like she was trying to conjure one last insult to sting. Then the line went dead, and I exhaled for the first time in days. That night, I started packing the last few boxes from the cabin. I wasn't going back to that house. Not ever. Too many shadows. Too many lies. Instead, I signed a lease for a modest shop space on the other side of town. Same skills, different zip code. Clean slate. Word travels fast in a small city. By Friday, I already had 3 new clients. People who'd heard about the husband who got betrayed but didn't go down quiet. I didn't mind the title. I wore it like armor. And the Mustang guy? Fired. His firm had a family values clause in their contract. Guess they took their branding seriously. I didn't feel joy from it. I didn't feel revenge. I felt freedom. And freedom felt damn good. A week passed. Then 2. No more calls from Natalie. No texts. No knocks at my door. But I knew that silence wasn't peace. It was the eye of the storm. She was regrouping, spinning her story to anyone dumb enough to listen. I'd been married to her long enough to know how she operates. The victim act. The half-truths. The crocodile tears. She was probably telling everyone I snapped that I abandoned her and Kyle. I didn't care. My life was finally mine. The new shop was a breath of fresh air. Smaller than my old garage, but cleaner, leaner, and full of opportunity. I hired one part-time guy, Ricky, young, eager, no drama. He reminded me of myself 10 years ago, before I got caught in Natalie's web. One afternoon, while we were fixing up a Civic with a blown head gasket, Ricky looked over and said, "Hey man, your name's getting around. People say you're the guy who burned it all down and walked out clean." I just smirked. Nah, I didn't burn it. I just stopped letting them live in my house while they held the matches. That night, as I closed up shop, I saw her. Natalie. She was parked across the street in some beat-up Hyundai, arms folded, sunglasses on even though it was dusk. She didn't get out, just watched me, and I stared right back. After a full minute, I raised my hand and waved once. Calm. Controlled. No words. She peeled off without a sound. I knew what that meant. She'd finally seen what real consequences looked like. You don't get to destroy someone who built your whole lifestyle and expect them to keep smiling. You don't get to spit in the face of loyalty and then cry when it turns to steel. A few days later, I got a call from her mother. That surprised me. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. "Jason," she said quietly, "I just wanted you to know. I didn't raise her to be like this. And I'm sorry for what she did to you." I paused. That hit harder than I expected. "Thanks," I said. But she made her choices. And I made mine. I hung up, not angry. Just finished. There was no going back. No wondering what could have been. I didn't need closure. I had clarity. And with that came a new rule I promised myself I'd follow. Never let someone confuse your kindness for weakness. And never, ever let a liar write your ending. 3 weeks after I'd watched her drive off in that rusted Hyundai, I finally felt the dust start to settle. My nights were quieter. No more wondering if the next call would be her, trying to weasel her way back in with half-baked apologies or venom disguised as guilt. I was sitting in the back of the shop, oil on my hands, sipping a gas station coffee when Ricky walked in with his phone in hand. "Dude, check this out," he said. "Isn't this your ex?" I took the phone. It was a video, blurry, vertical, someone filming at a bar. Natalie, on a mic karaoke night. She was drunk, slurring through some breakup song like she was the tragic heroine in a movie. People were laughing in the background. Someone yelled, "Sing it louder, sweetheart," and she did. At the end, she stumbled off stage and screamed into the mic. Men are trash, especially the ones who think they can erase you. My stomach didn't twist. My hands didn't shake. I just handed the phone back to Ricky and chuckled. She always loved attention more than love. He raised an eyebrow. "You cool?" "Yeah," I said, wiping grease from my palm. "I'm just glad I didn't build a life with someone pretending to clap while sharpening the knife." What I didn't say was this. There was still a piece of me that remembered her before all the rot. Before Kyle. Before the red jacket. Before she looked me in the eyes and said I was replaceable. But that version of her was long gone. A few nights later, I found myself driving past our old neighborhood. I wasn't sure why. Curiosity, maybe. Closure. I parked a block away and walked. The house was dark. A "For Rent" sign sat crooked in the front yard. No lights. No movement. I walked up to the driveway and stood there, hands in my pockets, letting it all sink in. This was where I built the deck. Where I spent 3 months renovating the kitchen she said she hated. Where we danced once, barefoot, after getting drunk off cheap wine and promises. It was nothing now. Just a hollow shell of what she pretended to value. And I didn't feel pain. I felt relief. I turned around and walked back to the truck. The past was dead, and I had no interest in resurrecting ghosts. A month later, I got the final paperwork. Divorce finalized. No contest. She didn't even show up in court. Her lawyer sent a limp letter saying she respectfully declines further communication. Good. I didn't want communication. I wanted the last chain cut. I sat in my new place that night. Bare walls, still half furnished, but mine. There were no high heels by the door, no scent of someone who lied for sport, no brother-in-law stealing from me while calling it borrowing. Just peace. I poured a glass of bourbon and sat by the window. The city hummed quietly outside. I could finally breathe without waiting for the next lie. And that's when it hit me. Freedom doesn't come from revenge. It comes from reclaiming yourself. She thought I'd break, that I'd beg, crawl, collapse. But I didn't. I built. Out of betrayal, I forged clarity. Out of lies, I found truth. And out of loss, I carved a new life. So here's what I'd say to any man standing where I stood. Don't chase explanations. Don't wait for closure. Don't argue with someone committed to misunderstanding you. Instead, rebuild. Quietly. Strongly. Strategically. Let them choke on the silence where your loyalty used to live. And when they come back, and they always try to come back, just smile and show them what replaceable really looks like. Because the best revenge is becoming untouchable.